This is absolutely correct. We do need to explain this. However you guys want to take criticism, I take it constructively. It's a chance to move my microphone closer so you can maybe hear me and also do better. So let's get into it. This video had an outside disconnect and the panel was inside the garage. As soon as I walked up on the panel, I knew that it was missing the cold water ground. I'm going to show you how I knew how it was configured and also what could have been done differently. Other mistakes that you can avoid while you're trying to fix this situation. Let's get into it. Let's see. So I can already tell we're missing our ground here. Alright, so this is the situation, right? We got two bare grounds right here. These two went to two different ground rods. So I could already see. And they dead ended at two different ground rods. They didn't go from one ground rod and then loop to another one, and then this wire went somewhere else. One went to one ground rod, one went to the other. It wasn't shown on the video, so we already knew that those are the two ground rods. The next tell here is that there's a green wire that goes down this pipe. Now this pipe is the feeder conduit to the sub panel because this is the whole main service. That is the service conductors there. The meter goes that way. So this went into like some kind of LB, and then it went into the house to the sub panel. So this one ground here is either going to be the cold water, which it could have been, or it's going to be the equipment ground, because we have to have an equipment ground. You're going to have a 250.66 and you're going to have a 250.122. 250.122 is the equipment ground. It's sized based on the main breaker, which is 200 amps. So 250.122 says 200 amps gets the number 6, and 250.66 is based off of the size of the KC mill of the service conductors, and that would be a number 4 based on 2-aught or 3-aught. Probably need 2 in there. That's why I said we're going to need 2 in there, because we only have 1 for 250.66, 1 for 250.122. Let's see. Alright, so we're just going to move this over. And we're going to draw the situation here. So this is the outside wall, right? Call that the service equipment. You're there, there's the disconnect, the service nipple. At some point we had a pipe that went into the wall. So the ground rods went here and here. And then we had the equipment ground that went inside. So we're missing one more service ground here, and what they ended up doing was coming out of the laundry. So the laundry was on an exterior wall. They ended up coming out through here and then running into there. But we're going to talk about what they could have done, which would be put 2 wires inside this raceway, and we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail right now. Okay, this is a picture of a panel that we found on the internet. There's not very many good sub-panel pictures. I assure you this is also not a good sub-panel picture, but we can work with it. Before we start looking at this, let's look at what the code says about grounding electrode splices. So we are in 250.64C, continuous. That's literally, it starts with the word continuous. So except as provided in 250.A30A5 and A6, which has to do with transformers, which we're not. Grounding electrode conductors shall be installed in one continuous length. If a splice is necessary, you can do an irreversible crimp, exothermic welding, which is cab welding. Sections of bus bars permitted to be connected together to form a grounding electrode conductor, which you're not going to do. Bolted, riveted, or welded connections. Threaded, welded, brazed, soldered. That's pretty much it. So you can't take a split bolt Kearney, attach it to one of your bare grounds, say from your cold water, and then extend it outside to your disconnect, because now the new rule says you got to have a disconnect outside for whatever reason. They say it's for your safety and for fire, but we all know it's just a money grab. So now we got to install a disconnect outside, even though they're probably going to continue to pull the meter. And it's got to be labeled emergency service disconnect. so that somebody can safely shut it off. Even though likely the homeowner will lock it on because they don't want somebody running around the house and turning the power off. So we're back to pulling the meter, but we're going to ignore that fact and just say now we got to add an extra $1,000 to every install. Cool. All right, so disconnect is outside. We have two grounds. All right, we're going to have the service ground and we're going to have the equipment ground, like we talked about. Let's look at an illustration here. We're going to have two grounds coming in here, okay? This one's going to be the equipment ground, right? So we got our equipment ground coming up through here and landing there on the equipment bar. We might have another ground coming through this pipe that's not going to touch this panel. And it's going to go up into the attic to the cold water ground. Maybe the pipe for the water heater before the shutoff. Maybe it's going behind the washer on a copper pipe. Something like that. It's going to go onto the cold water grounding piping system. What we can't do, like we just talked about, is if we had an existing ground inside this panel and it used to land here because this used to be the main and the electrician just took it off, right? And expected that he was going to do some kind of split bolt kearney or something and then attach it out there. That's what you can't do, because I just told you about the whole continuous rule. Yeah, hope that helps explain some stuff. If you guys want to know the reason why we attach to cold water, anything like that, let me know in the comments below. We're going to keep this video short and sweet. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.